All right, folks, what's happening? Sean, the average angler. Today we get to talk about something very near and dear to my heart because I love fishing this way. It's part of the reason I love this time of year. I wish you could do this all year long, and you can to a point, but we're going to focus on now and what's to come, okay? The next month or so from now, moving forward. And that is the one and only, and if you want to learn how to fish them and gain some confidence, jig fishing. It's a great time of year for jig fishing. We're going to go over some of that today. I'm going to show you how I do it, what I like to do to my jigs, how I like to rig them, and then we'll discuss some other options, okay? What I rig them on, all that kind of stuff. All right, so typically I'm going to go with a football jig, okay, because that's for fishing offshore. This jig here is a Dirty Jigs compact jig. And they call it flipping and pitching. I'll fish that too, okay? I just don't feel like that head is just for that. This is pretty universal. You can use it for a lot of things, okay? If you need the weed guard, you keep it. If you don't, you can take it off. It's up to you. And when I go over the rods, I'll tell you something a little different that I do, okay? But let's start with this one. First thing I'm going to do, as I mentioned the other day, I'm going to trim that skirt down. To where it comes, it doesn't have to be perfect, actually. Ratty looking jigs I like. Okay, so you'll see it comes about a half an inch past the hook bend, you can see here, okay? Now, on my trailer, I'm going to do the same thing. I already measured it and trimmed it, okay? So I wouldn't waste your time doing all that kind of stuff, but I want the head of that bait here to stick just out past the barb, or not the barb, the bend of the hook, so that really the only thing coming out of the back of this bait is the flappers. And that's just because I'm trying to make it compact, okay? Now, there you have it. That will work fine once it's in the water, okay? There. So that is a Big Bite Baits 3.5 inch college craw, it's called, in green pumpkin and purple. Okay, this is a super matte brown color, essentially green pumpkin and purple. So it just matches, okay, without overdoing it. I don't like too much. This has a little bit on the side. I might trim a few out, but I'm going to fish with it first and see. For the offshore fishing, I'm going to use one of two rods. And that's what we're going to talk about first, is offshore. So we're going to go over that. And this rod, I mentioned the other day, I think, it's the Irod Air 754C. You could also do the 744 and the Quercus if you wanted. Very similar, just an inch shorter. The action's slightly different, but both are good. The Bass Warriors workhorse is the 744. Awesome rod for a whole lot of things, okay? I want the length and the power in this rod to set the hook, take up some line, all right? Now, that's for this jig. That's if I'm using a weed guard, such as this 3/4 ounce football head. Now, this shank's a little bit longer, and you'll see we're already there. Well, you're gonna have to take my word for it. We're a half inch past the skirt. To me, this is a little fuller than what I want. So I'm gonna take these badass $2 scissors that I got off AliExpress, and I'm just gonna kind of mangle her up a little bit in there to take some of the skirt out of it, okay? Again, like I said, I don't mind if it looks mangled and haggard. For those of you that are jig fishermen, you're probably going to go, man, my jigs look like I can't even use them anymore is when they get bit the best, which, you know, is true. And I've had it happen many, many times. All right, one thing, same deal, different trailer. I typically stick with 3 different trailers this time of year. They're all going to be similar. This one is a 3.8 inch flapping hog. You'll see what I did to the bait there. Okay, I trimmed it back. Same reason, to get this area, last part of the body, to the hook point. I leave these on. You can take them off. You can leave them on. It's up to you. But let me show you the regular one so you'll see what else, because I did take a few other things off. Okay, I cut it where these balls are hanging, and then I pulled these arms off here so that that's all we have left. All right, let me rig that up. I'm going to throw this on the same rod. Now, there is a time where I'm going to use a lighter action rod. There you go. Okay. Again, I just want the flapper sticking out past the skirt. If you get too much hanging out this time of year, a lot of time they'll bite the back of it, even the big fish. We want them to see a small meal, and you'll see that football head's quite a bit bigger profile than that other one. Okay. We're going to find out what they want. I'm going to go out with several jigs hooked up. This one is also a flipping jig, so I can use it for both. The difference is one's a 1/2 inch or 1/2 ounce, one's a 3/4 ounce. Now, the other thing that I may do, now I'm fishing this on anywhere from 16 to 20 pound test. I'm going to fish what I can get away with, okay? Because I've hooked so many big fish this time of year. If I don't need a weed guard, I'm going to cut it off. Anything that I can do to give me an advantage or one less thing to get in the way, I'm gonna remove it, okay? There you have it. The weed guard is cut off. So now we just have a clean football jig, and if they bite it, they're hooked. That's not really why. Well, it is why. But if I'm fishing this on rock piles or just hard bottom, there's no wood or grass. There's really no need. And if there's grass, I'm using a different jig. If I'm not worried about hanging up, and look, it will hang up sometimes, okay? But the odds are, and the number of times I lose this jig, very little, okay? So I like to go with an open hook, no weed guard if I can. Now, the advantage to that, and where I really want to do it, is when I need to lighten the line, okay? And I'll go down to 12, 14 pound. I prefer to stay 15, 16, depending on brand, but this is a Irod Gen 3 733 Lone Star Special, okay? It's just going to be a little shorter rod, not quite as much power, a little more tip. And hey, maybe you're not fishing for 9+ pound fish all the time. When I go to Clear Lake, I always have to be considerate to the fact that there's a ton of fish over 8 pounds out there. And if I do battle with them, I want to be in good shape to do it. Not that you can't catch it with that lighter rod, because you can. But I like to give myself as much advantage as I can have and still catch the fish, okay? All right, the number 3 trailer I'm going to use, and I'll probably use this more than I use the big bite baits, especially in the offshore stuff, is the Max Scent Chigger Craw. Okay, they got some great colors there. You can see that green pumpkin orange, nice color. The orange goes to the bottom. And this is the 3-inch size. It's called the Yummy Craw. Well, this color is called Yummy Craw. You can also fish this by itself, as you can see there, but this is a great jig trailer this time of year through the winter, and they're sent. I just don't want to open the pack and pull it out because they do dry out. Okay. All right, where are we going to look for these fish this time of year? Now, I've already mentioned something that kind of gives it up. Maybe it doesn't give it up. It doesn't matter the time of year. Bass love hard spots. Hard bottom, okay? They absolutely love hard bottom. So I am going to look for hard bottom whenever I'm fishing. if I'm burning down the bank throwing reaction baits, that's one thing, but I'm going to tell you that they tend to live more around hard bottom. Now, don't think that weeds and grass don't grow in hard bottom areas. They do. A lot of times under those canopies down there, it's hard bottom. The weeds grow up and then they mat the surface. That's why we punch through and it's open under there a lot of times, okay? So we're looking for hard bottom. Now let's go over some of the obvious spots of hard bottom that maybe you didn't think about, maybe you did. Generally around docks, we're gonna have hard bottom, okay? A lot of times around the pilings where they go down into the ground, they'll put some rock. Some homeowners will throw rock out in front of their area to keep grass from growing. Gravel, rock. I like something different. It could be sand with rock, like they have a lot up north. We have some here too. We have the volcanic rock here. Bass love rock, and there's many reasons for that. One, they can hide behind it and ambush. Two, they can just rummage through it and find bait. Bait will eat the algae off the rocks. Crawdads will hide down in the rocks. So that's why we're looking for hard spots, okay? And it really doesn't matter what you're throwing, jig, drop shot, shaky head, it's all the same. When I fish it and I feel it come up on that rock pile, I start to get the anticipation that, hey, this is where I should get bit. I better be on point, okay? So this is focus on what you're doing has a lot to do with the number of fish you'll catch, because the guy that's not focused and paying attention is usually the guy that says, and this is a tribute to my long lost buddy Timmis. There he was. Timmis used to say there he was all the time because Timmis got a bite but wasn't ready to set the hook, and now the bite's gone. So pay attention, stay in touch with your bait, okay? Focus on it. Doesn't mean you can't talk to someone. Maybe some of us can't, okay? Maybe some of us can't talk and focus at the same time, but that's what we're trying to focus. Stay in touch with what that thing's doing down there and you're feeling for it. And pretty soon, if you focus and stay in touch with this bait, you will know when you bump into a rock. You will know when you drop off of a rock. You'll know when you drop off of a ledge and you need to give a little line because you want it to stay as tight to that ledge as possible. All these things, as you learn and you adjust, will start getting you more bites. Okay? Anytime you got to drop off, you want that thing to fall straight down. Well, when this is on the end of our line, in order for it to fall straight down, you have to be letting it take line. Otherwise, it's just going to pendulum back, and we just missed 3 feet of prime water, and we may have let that thing drift right outside those fish. Maybe they're like, oh no, I know that's a lure because freaking it went pendulum just like I always see. But one that goes straight down sometimes will trigger that reaction, and they love things stay tied up against walls, hard cover, because it makes it easier for them to ambush. It can't get away. All right? So focus, spend some time fishing a jig. Now look, this jig bite can turn on anytime. Okay, I know on one of my local lakes it's been fire lately. Not necessarily out deep, but on the same types of cover up in that 3 to 8 foot range. Okay, and just depending on what part of the lake, that could be considered deep, it could be considered shallow. But again, it's hard bottom. Okay, a lot of times you will find hard bottom outside of tules, okay? That's why the tules stopped growing. It could be because the water line, but it also could be because, hey, maybe there's hard bottom there. And that's a good reason to learn to read your graph to tell what's hard bottom. Now, one last tip for you, okay? And I really like this one because when you're as old as me, the way we found hard bottom, the way I found hard bottom, was a 3/4 ounce jig. Okay, I went out and I cast and I cast and I cast and I just reeled, bouncing it on the bottom. And when I hit a hard spot, I'd go mark it. I did it over and over and over again. And those areas have continued to produce fish for me year after year after year. Not saying they're good all the time, but it gives me places to look at and go, hey, you know what? Last time when the depth was this, I caught them over here. So maybe you find them in 12 feet. Well, you can go look on your graph and look at your waypoints and go boom, 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 those ones. There you go. You just cut down your learning curve, your time spent trying to locate fish, and you go out there and catch them. That's how we get big bags, catching more fish, knowing where we're at instead of having to look on our fishing days, okay? Jig fishing's awesome, folks. And let me tell you, these rigs produce for me year after year. All right? Video's getting long. I really didn't want to do this. You can, if you get on a spot that's loaded with a school of bass, that's the time when I will pick out a full-size jig. I won't trim it up, and I will put a whole trailer on it. And rather than using the 3-inch, I'll use the 4-inch. Just put a bulkier presentation on there. Throw it in there every once in a while. Sometimes that's the one that'll get you the biggest bite. Or if they started to shut down, it'll get you a few more bites. Sean the Average Angler, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Let's go to the channel. And, all right, thanks for watching.